Thanks for staying with us tonight. A diamond rush has hit the village of KwaHlathi outside Ladysmith in KwaZulu-Natal. Images and videos have been circulating on social media where people involved in illegal mining are seen celebrating the discovery of alleged diamonds. KwaZulu-Natal Premier Zikalala says the provincial government is deeply concerned by the matter. Well, joining us tonight for this conversation, Principal Geology Consultant at Litava Elihle Investments Advisory, Siphelele Njangase, Benchmarks Foundation lead researcher David van Wyk, and groundwork coal campaigner Robbie Mahalaga. Good evening to all of you and thank you all for your time. Robbie, let me begin with you. Firstly, what do we know about what it is that residents have been discovering and effectively what has led to this diamond rush?
Good evening, Kathy. Good evening to all viewers. I think so far it's still rumors. We're still sort of relying on rumors on whether or not it's diamond until we hear from someone on the ground and also well-tested evidence to say, yes, this is a true diamond. It could be anything. It could be true diamond. We don't know. But we can, in the interest of having a conversation, we can just say, let's just suppose it's diamond. If it's diamond, in my view, I think this is, of course, is synonymous to the diamond rush in Kimberley in the 1870s, where alluvial diamond was dug and people were helping themselves without any involvement of the corporates. Sometimes, the discovery of minerals seem to be a solution in the utopian world. I would say utopian world, but in the current situation and in the world that we live in, it tends to be a curse. Whether the mineral is discovered by the company or it is discovered by people. When it's actually discovered by people, it becomes a situation where, you end up having a bloodthirsty vultures landing with greediness attitude, and then chaos sets in. And then we have a blood flow. Eventually, people are getting killed because there's money involved in those kind of situations. It can be viewed as a solution. At the same time, it can be viewed as a case. It can end up being a case whereby it's supposed to be a solution.
Just looking at how quickly the hundreds of people that we're seeing in those visuals have descended on KwaHlathi. David, there's a lot of hard work going into this digging. When can we know, and how will we know if, in fact, whatever has been discovered there are real diamonds?
Well, I think that it's very similar to the situation in Zimbabwe a couple of years ago when diamonds were discovered in the southeastern part of Zimbabwe, and people rushed, school teachers and everybody left their jobs and so on and rushed to the area to go and participate in this jamboree for diamonds. But the Diamond Act of 1986, as amended in 2005, quite clearly states that no one is allowed to actually possess a rough diamond unless you've got a permit or a license to do so. And so consequently, I think the government will probably send in the Department of Mineral Resources, police, they would put it, and then after that, an agreement will be made with corporations and so on to move in. And that community will probably lose their land, and they will just be turned into cheap labor for the mining operation at the end of the day, as happened in after 1886 with the Kimberley discovery of diamonds. The African authority was simply excluded from the benefits of that mining process. And the mining legislation as it stands was drawn up by Cecil John Rhodes when he was Prime Minister of the Cape, and very little has changed since then. Even the 1886 legislation that was passed at the end of 2005 pretty much favors the corporations and not communities and ordinary people in participating in the mineral wealth of the country.
David, it's going to be very hard to convince those who have been able to discover some kind of stone and are keeping it to themselves that whatever finding that they have in their possession does in fact not belong to them, when this is a discovery that has been made on land that they have used, in some instances we'll find for decades now.
Well, I think the the Minerals and Petroleum Resource Development Act also states that all minerals belong to the state. And that would include diamonds also belongs to the state. And the state then has the right to rent the minerals out to corporations. And you see, the legislation in South Africa is very much biased against ordinary people and communities and so on, because the legislation has been written over 150 years and basically reflects the interests of the big companies like the US, Anglo-American and so on, and not the interests of ordinary people.
Robbie, let me bring you into this conversation and perhaps just get a sense of your own reflections on what we're watching unfold here.
Look, Kathy, it's actually an old era brought into the new generation, because this, like I said, it's the equivalent of the diamond rush that we had in the 1870s. You know, I would like to bring this to the similarities of the coal minings that are happening around the country. That as David has mentioned, that you know the government, the regulations are saying that the MPRDA, as David has mentioned, that it stipulates that you can own the land as a private land, but whatever that is actually kept underneath it's actually kept underneath the land, it's not belonging to you, it belongs to the government. That's where the law sort of becomes unfair. That's where there's a confusion. And now my question is, what if the diamond is an alluvial, it's on top of the land? Will the government allow people to say, take ownership of this? Because it's not underneath, it's on top of the land. So with what we see, like I just said before, that the discovery of minerals, even also the same with coal, we see a lot of people suffering. Everything that happens whenever there's a discovery of minerals, it actually does not benefit the community. Instead, it's a curse to the community. People are abused, people are beaten up, people are killed, so that they don't have to get access. Whenever they actually voice their voice out, their voice is actually suppressed. They can't say anything. And the government is actually not actually intervening to give solution to a better engagement between the corporates and the community. But instead, they side with the corporates and the community suffers. That's where the problem sets in.
Hi, Kathy.
Yes, I wanted to bring you in terms of your own reflections and just what you've heard so far. What's your take on what's happening here?
Kathy, it's one thing the government should have done a long time ago is to have an open system where if just you click on the computer and you press a certain area, it will tell you which minerals you can find in this area, which minerals you can't find in this area. So we are a bit behind when it comes to that. And looking at the Ladysmith area, we know very well that it forms part of the Karoo sediments geologically. And in that area, you cannot find diamonds. And when looking at the pictures that have been circulating around social media, from a naked eye, as a geologist, all I could see was a quartz crystal. And knowing that we also have an Office for Council of Geosciences in Pietermaritzburg, they should have attended to this immediately to go on the ground and look at the rocks instead of having what we're having right now.
You say that just based on what you have seen, these could well be crystals instead of diamonds. In terms of value and worth, will it still be worth it for people to keep digging in the way that we have seen?
Well, that can only ever be discussed once the Council of Geosciences and the other guys have been there on the ground to check what's going on, to see what can be done with those crystals. But yeah, in other countries, those crystals, it can be sold for different reasons, and a lot of things can be done with them. But as for diamonds in that area, it's highly unlikely.
How long does it ordinarily take for the kind of testing that needs to be done to actually be done and be concluded?
It's Siphelele, sorry, Kathy.
Oh, sorry, yes, Siphelele. Apologies for that. Apologies.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of geologists getting down on the ground, Kathy. It's that simple.
All right. So I guess it could be a matter of perhaps the next week, depending on how urgently this matter is attended to. David, in the meantime, do you expect that we're going to continue to see more people flocking to that area?
Yes, we are going to see lots of people flocking into that area, which is also a problem for COVID-19. Already from the pictures one sees on social media, people are clustered together very tightly and so on in the areas, digging in the ground and so on for what they perceive to be diamonds. Of course, the other thing is that even if it's on the surface, the Diamond Act of 1986 stipulates that if you pick up a rough diamond, you are supposed to actually take it to the nearest police station immediately. That is what the law basically says, because if you are caught in possession of a rough diamond, you are committing a crime according to the law. That doesn't mean that the law is just or anything like that, but that is just what the law says at the moment. And so it is problematic. Those people can find themselves in quite a lot of trouble having those stones, even if those stones if those stones are diamonds, particularly, they will be in trouble.
Let me thank you all so much for your time tonight. David van Wyk is the lead researcher at the Benchmarks Foundation. Robi Mokhalaga is a coal campaigner working for Groundwork. And Siphelele Njangase is with the Litaba Elihle Investments Advisory. We'll leave it there then for tonight.